I was 28 minutes late to my own homecoming. Not because I'd been held up at the airport or caught in traffic, but because Karen Whitcomb, HOA president and self-appointed neighborhood dictator, had parked her gleaming white Mercedes in my reserved space. Again. For the third time this week. I sat in my rental car, staring at her vehicle, feeling the anger I'd managed to suppress during 15 months in Afghanistan come surging back. I never wanted to live in an HOA community. But after my second tour ended, the modest 2-bedroom townhouse in Maple Ridge Estates was the only place I could afford in my hometown that didn't need major renovations. The property listing had conveniently omitted the fact that the Homeowners Association was run by the most entitled woman in the Tri-County area. "Welcome home, Frank," I muttered to myself, grabbing my duffel bag from the passenger seat. The reserved parking spaces were one of the few perks of living in Maple Ridge. Each townhouse came with a designated spot, clearly marked with the unit number. Mine, 14B, was painted in bold white characters that even a child could read. Yet somehow, Karen's Mercedes kept materializing there whenever she needed to visit one of my neighbors. I lugged my bag to my front door, fumbling with the keys. 15 months away, and nothing had changed. My next-door neighbor, Lena Owens, spotted me from her porch. "Frank Morgan," she called, hurrying over with a warm smile. "You're home. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." "Caught an earlier flight," I replied, giving her a one-armed hug. Lena was in her 60s, a retired elementary school teacher who'd welcomed me with homemade cookies when I first moved in 2 years ago. "I see Karen's still claiming my parking spot." Lena's smile faltered. "She's gotten worse, if you can believe it. Ever since her husband left her for that yoga instructor from Cedar Falls, she's been on a power trip." I raised an eyebrow. "Husband left, huh? That's new. Oh, you've missed so much," Lena said, lowering her voice. "Board meetings have turned into Karen's personal therapy sessions. And the fines! Last month, she cited the Johnsons for having their garbage can visible from the street, on garbage day." I shook my head. "Some things never change." "Well, don't let her spoil your homecoming. Come over for dinner tomorrow? I make a mean pot roast. Wouldn't miss it," I said, finally pushing open my door. The inside of my townhouse smelled stale, but otherwise looked exactly as I'd left it. Lena had been checking on the place while I was deployed, keeping it dusted and aired out when weather permitted. I dropped my bag in the hallway and collapsed onto the sofa, my body still operating on Afghanistan time. I must have dozed off because a sharp knocking jolted me awake. The digital clock on my cable box read 6:42 p.m. I staggered to the door, rubbing my eyes. Karen Whitcomb stood on my doorstep, arms crossed over her chest. Her highlighted blonde bob was cut at a precise angle that somehow made her look permanently disapproving. She wore a navy blazer with the Maple Ridge Estates logo embroidered on the breast pocket, an unofficial addition she'd commissioned for herself. "Mr. Morgan," she said, her voice clipped. "I wasn't aware you were returning today." I leaned against the doorframe, making no effort to hide my exhaustion or irritation. "Hello to you too, Karen. I'd have called ahead, but I wasn't aware I needed permission to enter my own home." Her lips tightened. "Of course not. It's just that we have procedures for returning residents. Forms that need to be filled out." "Forms for coming home from deployment? That's new. Well, we've updated several policies since you've been gone." "The board voted, I'm sure they did," I interrupted. "Speaking of policies, any updates on the reserved parking spaces? Because your car is in mine." Karen's face flushed. "I'm conducting official HOA business on this street. As president, I'm entitled to use any space temporarily when performing my duties." "And what duties might those be at?" I checked my watch. "Nearly 7 in the evening? I'm inspecting the Henderson property. They've installed unauthorized window treatments." I stared at her, wondering if she could hear how ridiculous she sounded. "Right. Well, I've been traveling for over 30 hours, so I'd appreciate it if you'd move your car so I can park mine properly. I'll only be another 15 minutes, she said, turning to leave. The rental can stay where it is until then. Before I could respond, she was marching toward the Hendersons' unit, her sensible heels clicking on the pavement. I closed the door, leaning my forehead against it. 15 months in a war zone, and somehow Karen Whitcomb still ranked as one of the most stress-inducing people in my life. My phone buzzed with a text from Lena. Did Hurricane Karen strike already? I smiled, typing back. Direct hit. Something about unauthorized window treatments. The Hendersons put up beige curtains instead of eggshell. The horror! I laughed, but my amusement was short-lived. Peering through my front window, I spotted Karen's Mercedes still occupying my space an hour later. And the next morning. And when I returned from a grocery run that afternoon. By that evening, my patience had evaporated. I called the number on the parking enforcement sign at the entrance to our community. Peterson's Towing. A gruff voice answered. Hi, I'd like to report an unauthorized vehicle in a reserved space at Maple Ridge Estates. Address? I provided the details, then added. It's a white Mercedes, license plate KR3N1. We'll send someone out. Might be an hour or so. No problem, I replied. I don't think the owner will be moving it anytime soon. I hung up and settled in my living room with a beer and a clear view of the parking lot. True to their word, a tow truck arrived about 40 minutes later. The driver, a burly man named Dale according to his embroidered shirt, examined the parking space markings and the offending vehicle. I stepped outside. That's the one, I confirmed. Been there since yesterday. Dale nodded, already lowering the tow equipment. Happens all the time in these HOA communities. Folks think the rules don't apply to them. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. You know, Dale said conversationally as he secured the Mercedes. We got a new contract with an impound lot. Better security, but it's a bit of a drive. Oh? Where is it? Just across the state line in Harmony Springs. About 80 miles from here. I paused, an idea forming. Harmony Springs? That's quite a trip. Dale shrugged. Company pays for the gas. Plus, the manager there's my cousin. Gives us a good rate. I watched as Karen's precious Mercedes was hoisted onto the truck. Well, I wouldn't want to inconvenience your cousin with a rush retrieval. I'm sure the owner will understand these things take time. Dale gave me a knowing look. Board president's car, isn't it? Recognize the vanity plate. She's called us out here to tow other residents often enough. I neither confirmed nor denied, just offered a noncommittal shrug. Well, Dale said, securing the final restraint. If anyone asks, Peterson's Towing follows strict protocols. Vehicle will be processed in the order it's received. During normal business hours. Of course, I agreed. Wouldn't expect anything else. Dale climbed into his truck, offering a small salute before driving away with Karen's Mercedes in tow. I went back inside, feeling lighter than I had since returning home. My conscience gave a small twinge. Was this too petty? Too extreme? But then I remembered the countless residents Karen had bullied, the arbitrary fines, the way she'd parked in my spot without a second thought while I was serving overseas. The fallout came faster than expected. At precisely 8:47 the next morning, a banshee-like wail echoed through the complex. I was enjoying coffee on my small patio when Karen emerged from her unit 3 buildings down, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing wildly at the empty space where her car should have been. What do you mean it's in another state? She shrieked, loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. I sipped my coffee, watching the show over the rim of my mug. Several neighbors had appeared on their patios or at their windows, similarly entertained. Karen paced in frantic circles. I am the president of this homeowners association. I want to speak to your manager immediately. A pause as she listened, her face growing redder by the second. Monday? Monday? This is completely unacceptable. Do you have any idea who I am? Another pause. Well, I never. I'll have you know that I will be filing a formal complaint with your company, the Better Business Bureau, and the State Transportation Authority. She jabbed at her phone to end the call, then immediately dialed another number. Frederick. she barked, presumably addressing her ex-husband. "I need you to come pick me up. My car has been stolen and the police are being completely unhelpful." I couldn't hear the response, but from Karen's expression, it wasn't what she wanted. "Fine. I don't need your help anyway." She ended that call too, then stood in the middle of the parking lot, seemingly at a loss. Lena appeared beside me, holding her own coffee mug. "Karma's a beautiful thing, isn't it?" she murmured. "Indeed it is," I agreed. "You know she'll suspect you," Lena warned. "Let her." The tow was completely legitimate. She parked in a clearly marked reserved space for over 24 hours. Karen finally spotted us watching and marched in our direction, her face a mask of fury. "You!" she pointed at me. "You did this!" I maintained a neutral expression. "Did what, Karen? You had my car towed. Don't play innocent with me." "Your car was in my reserved space," I said calmly. "The space marked 14B, which belongs to my unit. The space you've been repeatedly warned about using. I was conducting official HOA business. For 26 hours straight? That's impressive dedication." Several neighbors had gathered now, watching the confrontation with undisguised interest. "This is harassment," Karen declared. "I'm adding this to your growing file of violations." "What violations?" I asked. "My property has been maintained exactly to code, even during my deployment. Your garbage can was 6 inches too close to the street last month," she snapped. Lena stepped forward. "That was my doing, Karen. I was looking after Frank's property while he was serving our country. If there's a fine, send it to me." Karen's eyes narrowed. "This isn't over, Morgan. Not by a long shot." She stormed off, already dialing another number on her phone, presumably for a ride. "Well," said Lena once Karen was out of earshot. "That was refreshing. Though I suspect we haven't heard the last of this." "Probably not," I agreed. "But it was worth it." I had no idea how right Lena was, or how quickly Karen would escalate the situation. By that afternoon, a formal notice had been taped to my door, citing me for malicious interference with HOA leadership activities, and levying a $500 fine. The next day, another notice appeared, this one claiming I'd violated the Community Harmony Clause of the HOA covenant. Another $750 fine. "She can't do that," Lena insisted when I showed her the notices. "There's nothing in the bylaws about community harmony, and she has no proof you called the tow company." "Proof doesn't seem to matter much to Karen," I observed. The fines kept coming. By the end of the week, I'd supposedly accumulated over $2,000 in penalties for increasingly creative infractions: improper welcome mat placement, unauthorized patio furniture, the chair I'd had for 2 years, even excessive patriotic display for the small American flag by my door. I ignored them all, which only seemed to infuriate Karen further. She began parking directly behind my car, blocking me in. When I had her towed again, this time just to the local impound lot, she escalated to having her friends on the board park in rotation, making it impossible to identify a single repeat offender. The situation was becoming untenable, but I wasn't about to be bullied out of my own home. Instead, I started doing research, beginning with the HOA financial records, which were technically public to all members. What I found was interesting, to say the least. "Karen's been embezzling," I told Lena over dinner at her place one evening, showing her the discrepancies I'd discovered. "Small amounts from each account, spread out over time. But it adds up to over $30,000 in the past year alone." Lena's eyes widened. "That would explain the special assessments she keeps pushing through. We thought they were going toward the new playground equipment, but that project keeps getting delayed." "There's more," I said. "The landscaping company that maintains the common areas? It's owned by her brother-in-law. They're charging triple the market rate." "That's scheming little." Lena caught herself. "What are you going to do with this information?" I considered the question. "I need more proof before going to the authorities. Bank records, transfer details." The quarterly HOA meeting is next week, Lena pointed out. All 5 board members will be there, including Treasurer Tim, who might have access to those records. If I can get Tim alone, maybe I can convince him to help. I mused. He always seemed uncomfortable with Karen's methods. The plan was simple. Lena would distract Karen and the other board members after the meeting while I approached him with what I'd found. But like most simple plans, it didn't survive first contact with the enemy. The meeting was held in the community clubhouse, a modest building near the neighborhood entrance. I arrived early, taking a seat in the back row. Residents filtered in gradually, many nodding to me in recognition. Karen sat at the central table up front, shuffling papers with exaggerated importance. She pointedly ignored my presence. The meeting proceeded with mind-numbing tedium, minutes from the previous meeting, updates on community projects, including the perpetually delayed playground, and a lengthy discussion about approved paint colors for front doors. Finally, Karen moved to new business. We've had some distressing incidents of rule violations recently, she announced, her gaze finding me in the back. Including residents who think they're above the clearly established parking regulations. Several people turned to look at me. I kept my expression neutral. Therefore, Karen continued, the board is proposing an amendment to the bylaws. Any resident who accumulates more than $1,000 in unpaid fines will face eviction proceedings. Murmurs rippled through the room. This was a direct shot at me, and everyone knew it. Additionally, she added smugly, these new rules would be applied retroactively to existing violations. That was enough. I stood up. Point of order. Karen's smile tightened. Residents may only speak during the designated comment period, Mr. Morgan. Actually, I replied, according to Robert's Rules of Order, which our bylaws specifically adopt as parliamentary procedure, any member may raise a point of order at any time if they believe proper procedures aren't being followed. Silence fell across the room. Karen hadn't expected me to know the rules. And what procedure do you think isn't being followed? She asked coldly. For one, bylaws amendments require written notice to all members at least 30 days before voting. For another, retroactive rule enforcement violates both our existing bylaws and state law. Mr. Morgan thinks his military service makes him an expert on our community rules, Karen said, addressing the room rather than me. No, I replied calmly. My research into the actual legal documents governing this HOA makes me informed. Just as my research into the HOA's financial records makes me concerned about where our dues are actually going. The room went utterly still. Karen's face drained of color. What exactly are you implying? She demanded. I'm not implying anything. I'm directly stating that there are significant discrepancies in our financial accounts. Discrepancies that coincide with large deposits into your personal account at First National Bank. It was a calculated risk. I didn't actually have proof of the deposits yet, just the withdrawals from the HOA accounts. But Karen's reaction confirmed my suspicions. How dare you? She sputtered. This is slander. I'll sue you for defamation. Treasurer Tim was looking increasingly uncomfortable, his gaze darting between Karen and his own papers. Tim, I said, addressing him directly, you've been signing off on these financial reports. Did you actually verify the numbers? Tim swallowed hard. Karen said the accounting software was complicated, so she's been handling the data entry. I just reviewed the summaries. This is absurd, Karen declared, gathering her papers. Meeting adjourned. We haven't voted, someone called out. Or had the comment period, added another resident. Karen looked ready to explode. Fine. Comments limited to 1 minute each. What followed was a surprising outpouring of frustration from residents who'd clearly been intimidated into silence for too long. Complaints about arbitrary fines, selective enforcement, and Karen's increasingly dictatorial behavior dominated the discussion. While this was happening, I noticed him slipping out a side door. I followed him to the parking lot. Tim, I called. Wait up. He turned, looking nervous. I don't want any trouble, Frank. Neither do I assured him. But you know something's not right with the books. He glanced around anxiously. Karen's persuasive. When I raised questions, she reminded me about my unapproved garden shed. Said she'd been overlooking it. She's been blackmailing you. He nodded miserably. Others too. Marjorie's fence is 6 inches too tall. Doug's satellite dish isn't properly concealed. Help me stop her, I urged. I need access to the complete financial records. Tim hesitated, then reached into his briefcase. I started keeping copies, he admitted, handing me a flash drive. After the third time, numbers didn't add up. I was afraid to do anything about it. I pocketed the drive. You've done the right thing. I'll make sure you're protected when this comes out. The sound of the clubhouse door banging open interrupted us. Karen stormed out, spotting us immediately. Emergency board meeting, she shouted at Tim. Now! I should go, Tim said quietly. I nodded. Be careful. And Tim? Thank you. The flash drive contained exactly what I needed, detailed records of every transaction, including transfers to an account labeled Community Improvement Fund. That didn't exist in any official capacity. From there, I was able to trace the money to Karen's personal accounts, as well as payments to various family members for services never rendered. With this evidence in hand, I contacted the State Attorney General's office, which had a division specifically dedicated to HOA fraud. They were very interested in what I had to share. The following Saturday morning, as I was washing my car in the driveway, a convoy of official vehicles pulled into Maple Ridge Estates. 2 police cruisers, an unmarked sedan, and a van with the State Financial Crimes Unit logo emblazoned on its side. They parked directly in front of Karen's unit. Neighbors emerged from their homes, watching as officers approached Karen's door. I couldn't hear the exchange, but her indignant voice carried across the complex. Minutes later, she was being escorted to one of the cruisers, still protesting loudly about a misunderstanding, and how that Morgan person was behind this harassment. When she spotted me watching, her face contorted with rage. You! She screamed. You did this! You'll regret this, Frank Morgan! I have friends in high places! I simply waved as the cruiser door closed, and she was driven away. The state investigation revealed that Karen had embezzled nearly $175,000 over 3 years, using various schemes including fake vendors, inflated maintenance costs, and phantom special assessments. 4 other board members were implicated to varying degrees, though Tim's cooperation earned him leniency. In the aftermath, a completely new HOA board was elected, with Lena serving as interim president until proper procedures could be established. One of their first actions was to cancel all the spurious fines Karen had issued, including mine. You know, Lena said as we sat on my patio a month later, watching new playground equipment finally being installed across the street. In a weird way, we should thank Karen. I raised an eyebrow. Thank her for stealing from us and making everyone's life miserable? For bringing the community together, Lena clarified. Look around. People are talking to each other, helping with projects. Mrs. Fernandez is growing vegetables for the whole block. The Hendersons started a community book club. She was right. Without Karen's reign of terror, Maple Ridge Estates had transformed into the kind of neighborhood I'd actually want to live in. Plus, Lena added with a mischievous smile, I hear the prison where Karen's awaiting trial is about 80 miles away. Almost as far as Harmony Springs. I laughed. Well, at least she's familiar with long-distance towing procedures now. Indeed, Lena agreed, raising her glass in a toast. To karma, justice, and reserved parking spaces that actually stay reserved. I clinked my glass against hers. I'll drink to that. In the distance, children laughed as they explored the new playground, their parents chatting on nearby benches. No one was checking for violations or measuring the height of fences. Just neighbors enjoying a beautiful day in a community that finally felt like home. As for Karen's Mercedes, it sat in the Harmony Springs impound lot for a full week before she managed to arrange retrieval. The storage fees alone came to more than all the bogus fines she tried to levy against me. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected packages, or tow trucks, as the case may be.